And every time I've ever made a mistake that I regretted, either large or small, and this was the biggest one.
Oprah just broke down in court, straight up losing it, and what set her off is crazier than anyone thought. Diddy came through, spilling the tea on her role in those freak-off parties, and it's way bigger than people expected. Word is, Oprah was quietly running things behind the scenes for Diddy's freak-offs. We'll get into all the details shortly. The explosive connections between Oprah and Diddy's dark empire. The Diddy case is literally the biggest and most disturbing scandal to hit Hollywood since Harvey Weinstein got exposed. We're looking at over 78 civil lawsuits as of May 2025, with allegations ranging from sexual assault to full-on trafficking. And now Oprah's name is getting dragged into this mess. You know we gotta talk about it. First things first, let's establish what we know about Oprah and Diddy's relationship. These two industry powerhouses definitely had professional connections. In 2006, Oprah interviewed Diddy for her O magazine, where they discussed his career and his infamous parties. But during this interview, something super weird happened that people are now side-eyeing hard. When Oprah asked Diddy about the origins of his nickname Puff Daddy, Homeboy got mad sketchy. He straight up refused to explain it, saying, "It's a nickname somebody gave me. I've never told anyone that. I know you get people to tell you everything, Oprah, but I can't look you in the eye and explain that one." Now, why would Diddy be so secretive about a simple nickname? That's like if your homie refused to tell you why people call him T-Bone or whatever. It's giving mad suspicious vibes, especially now that we know what we know about Diddy's alleged activities. But their relationship wasn't just that one interview. Oprah and Diddy have been spotted at multiple high-profile events together, including the 2007 CFDA Fashion Awards in New York City. That's just facts. But here's where things get juicy. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Oprah was among the attendees at Diddy's international parties held in places like Saint-Tropez, Ibiza, Miami, Morocco, and Los Angeles, alongside other A-listers like Mariah Carey, Martha Stewart, and Jay-Z. And the connections don't stop there. A 2025 article from Complex.com revealed that Oprah was featured in a VHS invitation for Diddy's 29th birthday party back in 1998 at Cipriani on Wall Street, where she gave a shout-out alongside Tommy Hilfiger and Mariah Carey. She was literally helping promote his events. The Mirror US also reported that a 1998 video invitation shows Oprah and Stephen Baldwin inviting Hollywood stars to one of Diddy's parties. You all seeing the pattern here? Oprah wasn't just some random celebrity who happened to cross paths with Diddy once or twice. She was consistently in his orbit, attending his events, promoting his parties, and appearing in photos with him. In 2013, she was spotted with Diddy at a pre-Emmy party hosted by Jimmy Iovine in Los Angeles, and the Daily Mail captioned a photo of her there as "Rose Between Thorns." Oprah looks very overexcited as she poses for a photo sandwiched between Diddy and Kanye West. The bigger question is, what did Oprah know about Diddy's parties? Because these weren't just regular celebrity get-togethers. According to court testimony from Cassie Ventura in Diddy's current trial, these freak-off parties involved specific steps of increasingly intimate activities, all allegedly controlled by Diddy.
But she broke the down in steps as well. She said that the first step was there was like masturbation, and they would have to do masturbation. It would be her and the escort, and she would have to talk out loud and describe what she was seeing. She would have to be very descriptive because allegedly Puff would want to hear that.
The testimony gets even more disturbing as she describes the subsequent steps, including excessive use of baby oil, a detail that keeps coming up in multiple testimonies.
Baby oil. She said that they would oil up so much. That was like a big thing for Puff, allegedly. Like, you had to be oiled, that every 5 minutes they were like just re-oiling because
he wants you to look like a shiny suit.
Yeah, because it glistens, and I guess it's the sexiness of baby oil on it.
He wants you to glisten like them shiny suits he used to wear in the 90s.
Now, I'm not even gonna lie, that's one of the weirdest details I've ever heard. Like, who needs that much baby oil? That's not normal party supplies. That's like opening a whole Johnson & Johnson factory in your crib. During raids of Diddy's properties in March 2024, authorities reportedly seized over 1,000 bottles of baby oil, which prosecutors say supports allegations of organized freak-offs. So, what exactly was Oprah's involvement with these parties? That's where the social media streets have their theories. On X, formerly Twitter, user Adderall Magamama26 posted on May 14th, 2025, Oprah was definitely a freak-off participant. Look how happy she is with Diddy. She's literally glowing. Might be baby oil residue, but glowing nonetheless. Another user, restricted on X, stated on September 20th, 2024, if you've been to both Diddy's parties and Epstein's Island like Oprah, your credibility is shot. Anyone taking advice from her is beyond reason. Wake up. the Reddit theories get even wilder. In the R Conspiracy subreddit on September 23, 2024, users were asking, how many of you think Oprah is knee-deep into things regarding the Diddy situation? She is a common denominator with all the biggest lowlifes like Weinstein and Diddy. This post makes an interesting point. Oprah did have connections to multiple figures who later turned out to be predators. Is that just a coincidence, or is there something more to it? What makes all this especially suspicious is how Oprah has positioned herself throughout her career as a champion for victims, especially women who have experienced abuse, yet she has repeatedly associated with men who have later been accused of being abusers. This contradiction raises serious questions about either her judgment or her sincerity. But here's where it gets really crazy. Recently, some truly outrageous claims have been circulating. One Twitter user named TPV Sean made a wild allegation accusing Winfrey of buying a tape of Diddy with underage celebrities for $75 million.
Twitter user TPV Sean would accuse Winfrey of buying a Diddy tape of an underage Justin Bieber being raped. According to the source, she paid $75 million for the footage of Combs raping an underage Bieber and Aaron Carter, among other child stars.
Now hold up. That's an absolutely wild accusation with zero credible evidence to back it up, and some commentators are rightfully pointing out how ridiculous this claim sounds.
Sometimes you just gotta use common sense. Do you really think Oprah could spend $75 million to buy a tape, this particular tape, and then distribute it, because that's what he said, she's been distributing it to pedophiles for a price, and ain't nobody said nothing in all these years?
The commentator makes a solid point. If Oprah really did something that heinous, it would have come out long before now. Someone would have exposed her. And as another commentator points out, it doesn't make logical sense given Oprah's own history.
And by the way, Oprah, I think she was a victim of sexual assault as well. So why would she be in on something like that? That's kind of far-fetched. So I'm not buying that. But I do agree with Dr. Umar.
The reference to Dr. Umar is important here because he's been vocal about what he sees as a targeted attack on successful black celebrities.
Not too long ago, Dr. Umar would make an appearance on the platform The Art of Dialogue, calling out several influencers in the pursuit of taking down black celebrities. There he would condemn many jealous YouTubers of preying on the downfall of any black person that is more successful than them because he hasn't seen any concrete evidence implicating Jay-Z, Mary J. Blige, or other black celebrities that have been named online.
And that seems to be what's happening with Oprah. Despite the lack of evidence, some people are eager to drag her into the Diddy scandal, possibly motivated by jealousy, racism, or just a desire for clicks and views. But let's back up and look at what we do know about Diddy's parties, because this context is crucial. According to BBC News, these freak-offs were described as multi-day events held in private mansions, luxury hotels, or on yachts, starting in the 2000s. They allegedly involved illicit activities including drug use, ketamine, ecstasy and cocaine, non-consensual acts, and physical violence. Security measures at Diddy's properties reportedly included hidden cameras in every room, allegedly capturing footage of attendees to ensure their silence. This is a crucial detail because it suggests that Diddy might have had blackmail material on everyone who attended these events, potentially including Oprah if she was indeed present at any of the more private gatherings. In one resurfaced video clip, Diddy seems to predict his own legal troubles.
And they don't want me to throw the parties no more, but we ain't gonna stop. We're gonna keep on having fun, bringing people together from all walks of life. You're gonna hear about my parties. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we want to have a good time.
And check out this disturbing clip where Diddy jokes about locking women in at his parties.
They just, so you have, if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave.
Right.
Gotta keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky.
Excuse me, locks on the doors? That's not kinky. That's straight up imprisonment. Who jokes about locking people in at parties? That's not a vibe, that's a crime. So where exactly does Oprah fit into all this? Let's look at the bigger picture. Oprah has a history of being connected to controversial figures who later faced serious allegations. Harvey Weinstein is perhaps the most notorious example. Oprah was photographed with Weinstein multiple times over the years, and there are images of them looking quite friendly together. When the allegations against Weinstein first broke, Oprah initially offered to help him rehabilitate his image. It was only after public backlash that she fully condemned him. Then there's Oprah's connection to another controversial figure, Dr. Oz. She helped launch his career, featuring him regularly on her show and eventually helping him get his own program. Now, Dr. Oz has been widely criticized for promoting pseudoscientific claims and questionable health products. Even more disturbing is the report from the Quinnipiac Chronicle that links Oprah to a pattern of association with controversial controversial individuals, suggesting she has a habit of being connected to figures who later face serious allegations. And now we have the Diddy connection. When you look at all these relationships together, it starts to look less like bad luck and more like a pattern. As the saying goes, once is chance, twice is coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. An opinion piece from the Quinnipiac Chronicle makes a fascinating point. Oprah has a habit of being associated with controversial figures. The article links her to Diddy, Harvey Weinstein, suggesting a pattern of association with people who have faced serious allegations. What's particularly interesting about Oprah's silence on this matter? As of May 17, 2025, Oprah has not issued any specific statement addressing her attendance at Diddy's parties or her relationship with him. For someone who built her career on openness and honest conversation, this silence speaks volumes. Some have suggested that Oprah might have been afraid to speak out because of Diddy's power in the industry, but Oprah is arguably one of the few people who had more power than Diddy. She wasn't some up-and-coming artist afraid of being blacklisted. She was Oprah. She could have said something. She should have said something. Given all this, it's becoming increasingly difficult to believe that someone as connected as Oprah could have been completely in the dark. At best, she showed incredibly poor judgment in her associations. At worst, she knew exactly what was happening and chose to look the other way. The horrifying details of Diddy's freak-off parties exposed. Now let's get deeper into the shocking details about what actually went down at these so-called freak-off parties that Diddy was hosting, because the more we learn from court testimony and evidence, the more disturbing this whole situation becomes. First of all, we need to understand that Diddy had 2 types of parties. The first kind were his famous white parties, which were public, celebrity-filled events held from 1998 to 2009. These were legitimate celebrity gatherings with a strict all-white dress code intended to create what Diddy called pristine simplicity and supposedly break racial and generational barriers. These parties were held at places like East Hampton, NY, Saint-Tropez, France, and Beverly Hills, CA. Big names like Justin Bieber, Jennifer Lopez, Beyoncé, and Jay-Z would attend, and brands would sponsor the events. But then there were the freak-offs, and these were a whole different ballgame. According to testimony and legal filings, these were private, multi-day events held in mansions, luxury hotels, or on yachts. And what allegedly happened at these gatherings is the stuff of nightmares. During Cassie Ventura's testimony in Diddy's trial, she broke down the exact format of these freak-off events, and it's beyond disturbing. According to her testimony, there were 4 specific steps to these events. Step 1 was what she called descriptive foreplay, which involved intimate activities that participants would have to narrate out loud in explicit detail. Step 2 involved physical touching and the infamous baby oil. According to Cassie, Diddy insisted that everyone be constantly covered in baby oil.
The descriptive foreplay, and then step 2 is the touching. Now, step 2, she alleges, is that's when all the baby oil comes out.
Step 3 escalated to more intimate activities, which Cassie says she would rush through just to get it over with, repeatedly emphasizing that she didn't want to do any of this.
Step 3 is oral, and she says that a lot of times she would rush to get to the oral because she just wanted to get it over with, because she kept making a point of she didn't want to do this. She just was doing it because she was so in love, and she said she didn't want him to go and do it with anybody else.
Then step 4 involved full intimacy, with Diddy sometimes just watching and other times participating.
Now, step 4 was the actual intercourse where they would engage in, sex, and she said that sometimes Puff would just watch, allegedly, but then she said other times he might join in if they were really comfortable with an escort.
The details get even more disturbing, with allegations of degrading activities that I won't even describe here. But what's crucial to understand is that, according to Cassie and other witnesses, these weren't consensual encounters. These were coerced situations where participants were often drugged, threatened, or financially manipulated. When asked why she didn't just refuse or walk away, Cassie's explanation is heartbreaking.
So they asked her, like, why wouldn't you just tell them to stop yourself? And she said, I'm laying on the floor, I'm allegedly intoxicated by all these things, and it's 2 men standing over me. What am I going to do?
This testimony is supported by other witnesses. Dawn Richard, who testified on May 16, 2025, described witnessing Diddy attack Cassie in 2009 at his LA hotel, hitting, kicking, and beating her to the ground. And we have video evidence of Diddy's violence. The surveillance footage from the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016 shows him chasing Cassie down a hallway, grabbing her by the back of the head and throwing her to the ground.
Diddy's then-girlfriend Cassie is trying to get onto an elevator when the music mogul, wearing just a white towel and socks, chases her down, grabs her by the back of the head, and throws her to the ground.
The evidence against Diddy isn't just testimonial, it's physical. When federal agents raided his properties in March 2024, they found over 1,000 bottles of baby oil, along with drugs and other items linked to these freak-off events. Special Agent Yasin Binder testified on May 16, 2025 about about items seized from Diddy's hotel room at his arrest, including $9,000 cash, illegal drugs, clonazepam, ketamine, MDMA, baby oil, lubricant, and a mood-lighting device. What makes these parties even more sinister is the allegation that they were filmed without the knowledge or consent of many participants. Remember those hidden cameras I mentioned earlier? According to testimony, Diddy had these installed throughout his properties to capture footage of what went down at these events. This raises serious questions about whether he was using this footage as blackmail to ensure people's silence. In one of the most disturbing revelations from the trial, Israel Flores, a former security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel, testified about the 2016 assault captured on video. He described Diddy trying to bribe him with cash to keep quiet about what he had witnessed. This pattern of bribes, threats, and manipulation appears to have been Diddy's standard operating procedure. Another alarming aspect of these parties is the allegation that Diddy would deliberately make sure the environment was extremely hot. In a resurfaced 2002 interview, he explains why.
But just check it out. You need a lot of heat.
Heat.
Yeah.
Heat. You mean that physically the place has to be hot?
You don't have no air conditioning.
No air conditioning.
No.
Why is that?
Heat affects the alcohol, and it also affects, like, everybody gets a little bit more comfortable and loose. Builds up a nice little sweat.
So he was deliberately creating conditions that would make people more intoxicated and vulnerable. This isn't party planning. This is predatory behavior. The legal allegations extend beyond individual lawsuits. There are now over 100 alleged victims claiming sexual abuse, and neighbors have reported over a dozen police dispatches to Diddy's Beverly Hills mansion over 7 years, observing females appearing disoriented and in disarray. And it's not just Diddy who's implicated in these allegations. Several other celebrities have been named in lawsuits related to these events. Jay-Z is accused of rape in a civil complaint filed against Diddy, alleging that he and Diddy assaulted a 13-year-old girl in 2000 following the MTV Video Music Awards. Jay-Z has denied these allegations. Cuba Gooding Jr. is mentioned in a lawsuit involving Diddy's son, Christian Combs, where he was alleged to have been present on a yacht during an incident involving sexual assault and drug use. Odell Beckham Jr. and Drew Drusky Desboard are named as defendants in an amended complaint against Diddy, accused of participating in a gang rape with Diddy. Both have denied the allegations via social media. The list goes on, with names like Aaron Hall, Stevie J, Young Miami, and Daphne Joy all mentioned in various lawsuits. But what's notable is that despite all these allegations and the growing list of celebrity names, Oprah's name has not appeared in any formal legal filings related to Diddy's case. All the allegations connecting her to these events come from social media users and YouTubers, not from credible legal sources or witnesses. One alleged victim of these parties recently spoke out about the lasting impact of the abuse.
The violation I have experienced during the assault has had lasting effects on my body, causing ongoing health problems and complications. The combination of physical and emotional pain has created a cycle of suffering from which it is so hard to break free. I want to continue on this journey towards recovery and healing.
The gravity of these allegations cannot be overstated. We're talking about what amounts to an organized criminal enterprise centered around drug-fueled sexual abuse, coercion, and exploitation, and it allegedly went on for decades, involving numerous high-profile celebrities and potentially hundreds of victims. This is not just celebrity gossip. This is a criminal case with real victims and serious consequences. Diddy is facing federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted, he could potentially spend the rest of his life in prison. The trial, the defense, and the culture of silence. Diddy's trial kicked off on May 12, 2025 in Manhattan Federal Court and is expected to last 8 to 10 weeks. The charges against him are extremely serious: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. These aren't just minor offenses. We're talking about allegations of a criminal enterprise that spanned decades. When the trial began, Diddy's defense team came out swinging with their main argument: everything was consensual. According to AP News, they're claiming that Diddy was just into a swinger lifestyle and that all participants were willing adults. They're trying to paint a picture of Diddy as someone who just enjoys an alternative lifestyle, not a predator.
I mean, Diddy's defense basically said that he's a swinger, not a criminal.
But that argument seems weak when you look at the mountain of evidence against him. One key piece is the hotel surveillance video showing him violently assaulting Cassie, which directly contradicts any claim of consensual relationships. Another strategy the defense is using is to suggest that accusers have financial motivations. They've highlighted the fact that Cassie settled a 2023 civil suit against Diddy for $20 million and is now expecting a $10 million settlement from the Intercontinental Hotel for the 2016 assault. But this argument is problematic because it implies that victims shouldn't seek compensation for the harm they've suffered. The defense has also tried using a mental health angle, suggesting that Diddy had a mental condition while committing the alleged acts. But legal experts are skeptical about this strategy.
That's a claim that's an adjacent claim to the insanity claim, which the insanity claim usually says, I did it, but I did it in a mentally incapacitated state. He's saying, listen, if I did do it, I was going through a tough time mentally. And, you know, that's more of a consideration when it comes to maybe the punishment or maybe some behavior, but that's not going to absolve you from the crime.
Despite these defense strategies, the evidence against Diddy continues to mount. Cassie's testimony has been particularly damning, with 4 days of detailed accounts of physical abuse, coercion, and sexual assault. This testimony has been corroborated by other witnesses like Dawn Richard, who witnessed a 2009 assault, and Israel Flores, the security guard who saw the aftermath of the 2016 hotel incident. What's striking about this case is the sheer number of people who allegedly knew what was happening but remained silent. According to court testimony, Diddy surrounded himself with enablers, employees, security personnel, business associates, who either actively participated in the abuse or looked the other way. This brings us to a crucial question. Why did so many people stay silent for so long? The answer lies in the power dynamics of the entertainment industry. Diddy was a gatekeeper, someone who could make or break careers. He had money, connections, and influence. Going against him meant risking everything professionally. There's also the matter of the alleged blackmail material, those videos from hidden cameras that could potentially ruin reputations and careers. If you attended one of Diddy's parties and something compromising was captured on film, that would be a powerful incentive to keep quiet. But even with all these factors, it's still hard to understand how this alleged criminal enterprise could operate for decades without being exposed. And that's where the culture of silence in Hollywood comes into play. The entertainment industry has a long history of protecting powerful abusers. We saw it with Harvey Weinstein, with R. Kelly, and now allegedly with Diddy. There's an unwritten code that says you don't speak out against the powerful, you don't snitch, you don't rock the boat. And those who do face serious consequences, blacklisting, smear campaigns, legal threats. This is the environment in which Oprah has operated for decades. She's been part of this system, a major player in the industry, so even if she didn't directly participate in any wrongdoing, she's part of a culture that has consistently protected abusers and silenced victims. What's particularly interesting is how Diddy himself has responded to the allegations. After the hotel surveillance video was released, he issued an apology.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you got to do that. I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now.
This apology seems strategic rather than sincere, an attempt to get ahead of the story and control the narrative. Notice that he only apologizes for what was caught on camera, not for the years of alleged abuse that weren't recorded. Through his attorney, Diddy has continued to maintain his innocence.
I think that we made the points that we've been wanting to make. I think he came out. Mr. Combs is a fighter. He's going to fight this to the end. He's innocent. He came to New York to establish his innocence. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of the charges.
What's wild about all this is that Diddy basically predicted his own arrest years ago.
We ain't gonna stop. We're gonna keep on having fun, bringing people together from all walks of life. You're gonna hear about my party. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we want to have a good time.
It's like he knew what he was doing was wrong, but thought he was untouchable. And for a long time, he was right. He got away with it, but no more. As for Cassie, her testimony has been incredibly brave. She's had to relive traumatic experiences in excruciating detail, all while being subject to aggressive cross-examination. Her husband, Alex Fine, made a statement after her testimony concluded, saying, "I did not save Cassie as some have said. She saved herself." This highlights an important point. Cassie found the strength to escape an abusive situation and then to speak out about it publicly, despite the enormous personal cost. The prosecution's case is being led by a team of federal prosecutors who have been building this case for over a year.
Well, the federal prosecution team is all white women.
Yeah.
Led by the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey. So, you know, this is a kind of a hardcore situation here.
The feds clearly believe they have a strong case, with substantial evidence including...
The feds, and this is what I'm saying, they spend so much money. They want him so bad They have convened a grand jury for over a year. It's been over a year, a consistent grand jury that's listening to new evidence about Diddy, I have to imagine, weekly.
So what does all of this mean for Oprah and other celebrities who had connections to Diddy? It means they're going to need to address these allegations head on. The days of silence and evasion are over. In the age of social media, information spreads too quickly and public opinion can turn on a dime. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content. Diddy's entire life is crashing down. Accusations upon accusations every other day.
The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward.
A lot of lawsuits are being leveled against him, so much so that he was put on suicide watch. But that is not all. Right now, there are whispers that he may start attacking his friend's character in court to protect himself and his son, who, spoiler alert, has a misconduct case of his own. With all this happening, it's no surprise he's breaking down. Being locked up in the Metropolitan Detention Center will do that to you. There are so many parts to this story, but first, let's talk about Diddy's mental breakdown. Since his arrest, Diddy has been held in federal custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. As if the gravity of the charges wasn't enough, authorities have placed him under a procedural suicide watch. For high-profile detainees like Diddy, this move is often considered routine. However, sources close to the case suggest that the situation may be more complex than it appears. The intense public scrutiny, coupled with the overwhelming nature of the allegations, has raised concerns about his mental health. Those who once admired him now watch closely, wondering how he's coping as he faces what could be a life-altering trial. Combs, who built his career on resilience and ambition, appears outwardly defiant, with a spokesperson claiming he remains strong, healthy, and focused on his defense. But beneath this facade, the pressures are mounting. A man who once commanded stages and boardrooms now finds himself confined to a jail cell, surrounded by guards monitoring his every move. For someone accustomed to luxury and control, this new reality must be incredibly disorienting. I mean, look at it this way. For decades, Sean Diddy Combs lived in a world most people could only dream of. Mansions, luxury cars, and endless freedom to move as he pleased. But today, that life is gone, replaced by a harsh reality in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, one of the most notorious federal prisons in New York. Every morning starts early and without choice for Diddy, who once could sleep in or wake to a chef-prepared breakfast in his mansion. Instead, he's woken up in a tiny, dimly lit cell, fed simple, bland meals, and has a strict daily routine he has no control over. Known for his tailored suits and high-fashion wardrobe, Diddy now wears the same standard prison clothes as everyone else, blending into the sea of inmates in grey and tan. Gone are the designer furnishings. His world has shrunk to a small, cramped cell, thin mattress, and concrete walls. Privacy, once a constant luxury, has disappeared entirely. In the few times he's seen his family, the emotion has been raw. Christian King Combs, along with his siblings, showed up in the courtroom to support him, but visits are rare, brief, and bittersweet. Each encounter brings some comfort, but also underscores just how much has changed, as they can only see him from a distance, unable to truly be with him. During his most recent court appearance, Diddy's face lit up as he waved to his son and blew a kiss to his mother. He left the room with a small smile, but the reality of prison life means these moments are fleeting. Inside MDC, Diddy's status means nothing. The wealth, fame, and influence he wielded for decades don't afford him any special privileges here. There's no negotiating with guards or bending the rules in this place. Each day, every move he makes is dictated by the facility's unbending regulations. In a place where power means nothing, Diddy has been forced to accept a reality that's beyond his control for the first time in his life. Meanwhile, the list of allegations continues to grow at a pace that's difficult to keep up with. Over 25 civil suits have been filed against Combs, with many more rumored to be on the way. These lawsuits paint a disturbing picture of an empire allegedly built on manipulation, control, and abuse. The allegations date back as far as the early 2000s, a time when Diddy was at the peak of his career, and they continue through recent years. According to the lawsuits, he allegedly orchestrated parties that were little more than freak-offs, depraved gatherings where power dynamics were exploited and vulnerable individuals were taken advantage of. Reports claim that these encounters were recorded as a means of exerting control over his victims, a tactic that many describe as psychological as well as physical manipulation. But recently, new lawsuits have implicated other celebrities who were allegedly present during some of these parties. crimes. Recently, a suit filed by Texas attorney Tony Busby mentioned high-profile names such as Nicki Minaj, Lil Kim, and Mary J. Blige. While the lawsuit does not suggest that these celebrities were involved in any illegal activities, their presence at these events is very suspicious. The parties, often grandiose displays of wealth and fame, now appear to have been cover for something far more sinister. Although these celebrities' roles remain unclear, their names in the lawsuit are raising red flags. For the first time, stories from inside these notorious gatherings are coming to light. One accuser, identified as Jane Doe, alleges that she was only 13 years old when she was invited to an MTV Video Music Awards after-party hosted by Diddy in 2000. She recalls being given a drink that left her feeling drowsy. What followed, she claims, was a scary experience in which she was assaulted by an unnamed male celebrity, while Diddy and another female celebrity reportedly watched. These accounts are not isolated. The lawsuits describe instances where individuals, including minors, were allegedly drugged, assaulted, and left powerless to resist. Federal agents claim to have found disturbing evidence, including over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and other lubricants that were allegedly used in these so-called freak-offs. The description alone of these parties is deeply unsettling, as is the implication that Diddy maintained a calculated, systematic approach to exploiting those who found themselves within his circle. As if these revelations weren't enough to shake his image, recent reports reveal that Combs was allegedly attempting to use his influence to silence witnesses. His lawyers recently requested an order to prevent potential witnesses and their attorneys from speaking publicly about the case, claiming that such statements could influence the trial. This move shows a desperate attempt to regain some semblance of control as the walls close in around him. His legal team, confident in their client's innocence, has argued that these claims are nothing more than slanderous attempts to tarnish his reputation. They insist that Diddy is prepared to face trial and will fight to clear his name. In a statement, his attorneys expressed their belief that the truth will prevail, and that Diddy has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman. But with each new accusation, their defense becomes an uphill battle. Even as they seek to discredit the charges, the public's perception of Diddy is shifting, with many now viewing him less as a hip-hop icon and more as a fallen star. For Combs, the stakes couldn't be higher. If convicted on the federal charges alone, he faces a minimum of 15 years and up to a life sentence. The severity of these potential consequences is a lot, especially as more witnesses come forward with accounts of alleged abuse. In one instance, a 17-year-old aspiring artist claims he was drugged and assaulted by Combs, who promised to make him a star. This pattern of preying on young, hopeful individuals under the guise of mentorship is a common theme among the allegations. This portrays Diddy as a predator who uses his influence to manipulate those around him. As the trial date approaches, the tension continues to escalate. With each passing day, new lawsuits emerge, new victims speak out, and new revelations bring Diddy's actions further into the spotlight. This relentless pace is affecting not only Combs, but also his family, who recently released a statement standing by him. His 6 children, devastated by the turn of events, expressed their support, describing the ordeal as a nightmare and pledging to stand by their father through what they believe is an unfair trial. In the weeks leading up to his trial, Diddy's lawyers have one last card to play, an appeal to secure his release from federal custody while he awaits the proceedings. They argue that he poses no flight risk and that his continued detention only hampers his ability to prepare for his defense. However, federal prosecutors have staunchly opposed any type of leniency, viewing him as a dangerous individual with a history of exploiting his position. The appeals court is set to hold a hearing on the matter, but honestly, the odds are not in his favor. But now everything we do know, one question is on our mind: will Diddy turn on his friends? With Sean Diddy Combs facing his toughest legal battle yet, his friendships and alliances hang by a thread. Diddy, who has spent years basking in the glow of his high-profile friendships, is now standing on uncertain ground, sparking fears among his inner circle that he might go to drastic lengths to escape prison, even if it means turning against those closest to him. This worry has seeped into the lives of many of his famous friends, particularly Ashton Kutcher, who once considered Diddy a close ally. Now, Kutcher reportedly feels betrayed, manipulated, and afraid that his association with the music mogul could come back to haunt him. Ashton Kutcher, who built a bond with Diddy over nearly 2 decades, now finds himself rethinking every part of that friendship. He's reportedly expressed feelings of betrayal, not unlike those he experienced when his friend Danny Masterson faced similar scrutiny. Kutcher is left wondering if Diddy might throw his name, or the names of other celebrities, into the fire if it helps him reduce his sentence. According to sources, Kutcher has felt lied to and manipulated by someone someone he once trusted, fearing Diddy could say or do anything to sidestep the weight of his legal troubles. The actor is now on guard, keeping his circle close, with only his wife, Mila Kunis, as his confidant. This fear is not unique to Kutcher. Many of Diddy's once vocal friends and associates have now gone silent, which has sparked public curiosity and criticism. High-profile names like Jay-Z, Justin Bieber, and even Naomi Campbell, who once shared stages, business ventures, and red carpets with Diddy, are now nowhere to be found in his corner. Crisis management experts say this silence is likely a calculated strategy. By avoiding any association with Diddy at this critical time, they may be trying to safeguard their own reputations and shield themselves from the potential fallout of his unraveling case. But for these celebrities, the question still lingers. If the pressure on Diddy continues to mount, could he implicate them to save himself? Sources close to the investigation reveal that those in Diddy's orbit are nervous about his next moves. His legal team will likely be looking for any leverage they can find, and Diddy's extensive connections could be seen as one last lifeline. The thought of such a high-profile personality dragging others down with him is what reportedly keeps Ashton Kutcher up at night. For Kutcher, the anxiety is especially personal, as he knows that his association with Diddy could be misconstrued, especially if the rapper chooses to disclose names and details from his past. Although Kutcher insists he has nothing to hide, he's quite horrified at the possibility of being tied to the allegations. The tension within Diddy's circle doesn't end with Kutcher. Many of his industry friends are facing a dilemma, wondering if continued silence is enough to distance themselves from the mounting scandal. These celebrities were once happy to be photographed with Diddy, share stories, or even collaborate with him in public. Now they're retreating, aware that one wrong move could tie their name to a case that grows darker with each passing day. It's a dangerous situation, with some fearing that Diddy's potential survival mode could include desperate measures like pointing fingers at those who once supported him. Diddy's social connections have long been a part of his brand. His influence reaches across industries, from entertainment to business and beyond. Friends like John Legend, Mary J. Blige, and Mark Wahlberg once mingled with him, attending his lavish parties and forming partnerships. He even shared screen time with Prince Harry, whose name came up in civil cases involving Diddy earlier this year. But now, under the glare of criminal investigation, Diddy's web of connections is becoming a liability. Friends and associates are wondering how far he would go to protect his legacy and if he might turn against them in the process. PR expert Evan Neiman, CEO of Red Banyan, emphasizes that public figures are likely being advised to stay silent, as any connection to Diddy could reflect poorly on them. For some, that silence has a dual purpose, not just distancing from Diddy's situation, but also making it harder for prosecutors to involve them in any investigation. By keeping their heads down, they can avoid the scrutiny that could come from being implicated by someone desperate to escape the consequences of a high-stakes trial. Yet Kutcher's case remains unique. Unlike many of Diddy's associates, Kutcher's loyalty had always been genuine. He and Diddy weren't just party acquaintances or business associates, they were genuine friends who spent time together watching sports and attending family events. Now, Kutcher's heartache goes beyond just public perception. He's grappling with the realization that his friend might be willing to betray anyone to escape the grip of the law. According to sources, after seeing evidence of Diddy's alleged behavior, Kutcher and Kunis became alarmed, leading them to rethink everything they thought they knew about him. Diddy's upcoming trial could serve as a test for Hollywood's elite circle, revealing how friendship holds up in the face of life-changing consequences. Those who once viewed Diddy as a valuable ally are now weighing the potential costs of their loyalty, and Kutcher's fear is surprising at all. Just take a look at what's happening with Jay-Z and Beyoncé. They aren't implicated in Diddy's case at all, but because of their close association, have come under scrutiny. With Diddy's accusations, Jay-Z is more than frustrated. According to close sources, he's downright furious about being dragged into something he's had no part in. And Beyoncé, though managing her share of drama, is standing by him fully, ready to take on the madness together. It's no secret that Jay-Z and Diddy have a shared history. They were two kings in hip-hop, building empires side by side, collaborating and creating while pushing the culture forward. But those familiar with their dynamic say it wasn't always smooth sailing. Disagreements over ventures and strategies in the early 2000s created distance between them, and as years passed, they grew further apart. Their connection was mostly business, and now that distant link is enough to cause real problems. But it doesn't stop with just Jay-Z's ties to Diddy. Beyoncé is dealing with bizarre rumors too. Conspiracy theories, in fact. Some are saying that celebrities have to thank her in their award speeches or face some imaginary wrath. While they might laugh at the idea in private, it's adding fuel to a fire they don't want to be near. This situation has pushed Jay and Bey to protect their names and their legacy with more urgency than ever. But what really set Jay-Z off was a recent move by Piers Morgan. The UK presenter aired an interview with musician Jaguar Wright, who shockingly called Jay-Z a monster monster, lumping him in with Diddy.
Because he's just the beginning. Until him and his cohorts are all held to account publicly and legally, the victims, they're not safe.
The baseless accusations were the last straw. Jay's team, led by attorney Alex Shapiro, hit back hard. They even threatened legal action against Morgan for allowing these unfounded claims to go on air. Morgan ended up apologizing to the Carters, retracting the allegations, but Jay-Z's stance couldn't be clearer. Anyone trying to drag his name into Diddy's mess better be ready to face the consequences.
Their lawyers contacted us to say that those claims were totally false and have no basis in fact.
Making things even tenser, Tony Busby, a lawyer involved in the lawsuits against Diddy, recently announced that more defendants might soon be named. This statement sent ripples through the industry, with longtime associates of Diddy now wondering if they'll be called out too. And while Jay-Z and Beyoncé have kept their distance from Diddy's issues, the constant threat of association is keeping them on edge. Initially, the couple believed silence was the best way to avoid adding fuel to the fire. But as rumors began to spread like wildfire, they knew ignoring them wasn't enough. Now, Jay-Z's legal team is fully on guard, ready to go after anyone who tries to connect him to Diddy's controversy with unfounded claims. But as Jay-Z deals with unfounded allegations, Diddy deals with the fact that his world is crashing down, his family is being caught in the crossfire, and the only way out may be to snitch. Walls closing in. As Sean Diddy Combs sits in a dimly lit cell, facing charges that could unravel his empire, rumors swirl about how far he might go to save his legacy, and his son Christian. Once the ultimate music mogul and industry kingpin, Diddy now faces potential life-altering consequences. Yet, it's the threat looming over his son, Christian, that might drive him to make an unthinkable choice, breaking the long-held code of loyalty in the industry. Just days after attending Diddy's federal court hearing, where his father faced severe charges, Christian King Combs made headlines himself, but not for reasons you'd expect. In a nightclub video that quickly went viral, King was seen celebrating with his girlfriend, Raven Tracy, dancing and pouring drinks as if nothing was amiss. To many, it was a surprising sight given his father's serious situation. King's timing couldn't have been worse. Social media users jumped on the video, calling it disrespectful and tone-deaf. Not a good look, one comment read, as people urged him to keep a low profile and look less menacing and guilty. But instead of lying low, King did the exact opposite. He dropped a diss track aimed at none other than 50 Cent, one of Diddy's longtime rivals. The song, boldly titled Pick a Side, threw shade at federal agents who raided the Combs family properties, with lyrics like, "Police raid the crib like they think we selling crack, but we out here selling tracks." The track didn't stop there. King took direct shots at 50 Cent, saying, "Pop's been hated on by many men and that's fine. They gon' try to stop these M's and they gon' die trying." It was a public declaration of loyalty to his father, but it only added fuel to the fire. In response, 50 Cent wasted no time taunting King, posting on Instagram, "Now why would you say something like this when you know the feds are investigating? Is you stupid or is you dumb?" It was a jab aimed at King's loyalty, his recklessness, and the fact that both he and his father were under intense legal scrutiny. But the story doesn't end there. King's diss track comes at a time when he is battling allegations of misconduct stemming from a recent lawsuit that named both him and Diddy. This accusation, along with his recent public behavior, paints a complicated picture. On one hand, he's showing an unwavering loyalty to his father, willing to go toe-to-toe with 50 Cent and defend his family's name. But on the other hand, his actions, party videos, bold lyrics and all, come across as naive, even reckless, given the stakes. As the Combs family faces these trials, both literal and figurative, King's decisions could hold significant consequences. He's standing at a crossroads, where loyalty to his father could either prove him to be a steadfast supporter or end up dragging him deeper into the public and legal fallout. And as Diddy's trial date approaches, the stakes are only getting higher. For King, these moments could make or break not just his career, but his own future. Right now, he seems to be walking a thin line between family loyalty and his own public image, one misstep away from falling deeper into the shadows of his father's scandal. For decades, Diddy built a world of power, fame, and connections. He's crafted an empire that pulls in everyone from musicians and moguls to actors and celebrities, forming alliances with the likes of Jay-Z, Naomi Campbell, and Ashton Kutcher. He threw threw exclusive parties, brokered high-stakes deals, and created a legacy that seemed unshakable. But now, with prosecutors potentially eyeing Christian's role in his father's world, the stakes are higher than ever. Though Christian is not under investigation, the sheer possibility that he could be dragged into his father's legal battles has Diddy rethinking everything. The idea that Diddy might snitch to save himself or his family is very interesting. In an industry where loyalty is a badge of honor, the thought of Diddy trading secrets or implicating friends to secure Christian's future has his inner circle on edge. Ashton Kutcher, who has known Diddy for nearly 2 decades, reportedly feels betrayed and fears his name could be dragged into the controversy if Diddy decides to make a deal. This sentiment is quietly spreading among other famous friends, many of whom have benefited from their association with Diddy, but now worry they could be used as bargaining chips. Diddy's once untouchable status now feels fragile. As legal pressures mount, he's left with few options, and his once solid friendships may not hold if he prioritizes his family's survival. For those close to him, this is no small feat. Diddy has always commanded loyalty through charisma and influence, but as his friends start questioning their allegiance, they realize that the bonds they've built with him may not withstand the weight of his current challenges. Their silence speaks volumes, a strategic decision to avoid being tainted by association, but also a recognition of the growing rift between them and the man they once trusted. If Diddy does face the unthinkable decision to sacrifice relationships to protect his family, Christian's name at the center could become a driving force. The mogul's friends, who've reveled in his world, may find themselves wrestling with their loyalty to someone who could, under pressure, reveal secrets or accuse former allies. Now, with the looming trial, speculation mounts about who might be called to testify, who has truly severed ties, and whether Diddy will ultimately honor the trust of those who stood by him or prioritize his son above all else. For Diddy, the line between loyalty and survival has never been thinner, and with Christian's future on the line, no one knows which side he'll ultimately choose. But with the accusations, investigations, and friendships on the line, certain questions are on our minds. Will he protect his empire at all costs, or will refuse to snitch? For now, the world can only watch as he fights in court, uncertain if his breakdown marks a moment of vulnerability or the beginning of an entirely new strategy. As he faces what might be the defining battle of his life, Diddy's fate, his legacy, and perhaps his loyalty to those around him remain on the edge. Thanks for joining us today. Check out our other videos for more thrilling and entertaining content.